Are we ready to jump right in?
Let's do it.
All right, this is an emergency pod. We just completed the prior pod for Two Hummers and a Realist, analyzing the post game from Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma. We had no idea that within the next 5 minutes we get a call from Connor, of all people, to let us know, break the news, that Lincoln Riley is leaving Oklahoma to go to USC. This is, at first glance, remarkably shocking.
Absolutely.
I would say extremely concerning, but
I'm befuddled.
I am an optimist, and I can turn this into an optimistic outlook. And I think you might be surprised that I bring you along for the ride. First of all, I'm Steve.
Lucas.
Jay.
Connor really wishes he could be here for this one. What is the number one thing I always say about Lincoln Riley when I'm complaining about him?
He's
Can you
a
remember?
bitch.
That's number two. I always say the man does not understand risk and reward.
Yep.
The man's risk-reward framework is in error. And you see it in little ways on the field, and you see it in big ways on the field, and now you see it off the field in a manner that I think is very telling to what drives him and what he thinks it takes for him to succeed.
What kind of person he is.
And perhaps what kind of person he is.
I got to give him credit, though. This is the first indication he's ever made of clock management because he's doing this before signing day. So this
That's
is
a
actually the
great
first time
point.
he's ever done something
Great
right
point.
as far as time goes.
Oh, he
Before we
knows
go
all
any
about that.
farther, let's just make sure we get out there. There's an explicit warning on this one. We are very liable to throw out some very harsh language.
Don't listen around the kiddies.
So, unless you want your kids to be exposed to the truth, because we're going to speak the truth here. That was a great point about the clock management.
Yeah.
The guy cannot manage the clock. Look no further than last night, as my brother Mike was telling me this, as his two sons, who are Max's age and 2 years younger, so we're talking 12 and 10, they're screaming at the TV, "What are you doing? Where's your urgency? Let's go," with 6 minutes to go. And he's acting like, for sure, this is going to be our last drive. The guy can't manage the clock. He hasn't been able to manage any type of a higher level decision making strategically in game, and I think now outside of a game. This seems to me, and I don't have all the facts, I don't have all the insight into his mind, but this seems to me the kind of guy that's trading a sure thing for a big, big risk. And to me, it's clear.
I mean, I think on the football field, I think there's no question he has an easier path. The Pac-12 is weak, it is down, and when USC can have a coach like him, you can see what USC can become. So he went from being a big fish in a small pond to maybe even being a bigger fish in a smaller pond. What does that do for him and his reputation? What does that do for his legacies? I don't know. But it does seem like he is absolutely complete chicken shit on heading to the SEC and playing big boy football week in and week out.
Running scared. He definitely has an easier path because if you're in the Pac-12, you have to worry about Oregon and maybe Utah. Other than that,
But Oregon might not even keep their coach. I mean, their coach is always up for jobs.
Yeah,
he's from Florida. I mean, he's up for Miami. He's up
Yeah.
for LSU.
So
he might take a freaking LSU
He's going to have an easier path with only one or two competitors that can even compete for a conference title, much less a playoff bid every year. And he's too scared to go play big boy football in the SEC.
I think that's really telling. I think there's something to that. And I would say that when you look at the contrast, and we're going to get into this in a second about all of the aspects of Bob Stoops, but when you look at what Bob Stoops says, he never wavered from a challenge.
No.
He never cowered from what it could be, and never made a decision, to my knowledge, at least at a high strategic level, of trading off the challenge for an easier path that is just presumed easier. And I think philosophically there's an error in that.
You can look at that
So-
from our non-conference scheduling all the years of Stoops.
He always wanted tough opponents.
Yeah.
You're right. So here's the problem I have with the idea in the simplistic framework that I think Lincoln is applying to this, that he can go in and win at USC and it's an easier road. I think that there are no sure things by any stretch of the imagination when it comes to top-level performance at top-level institutions and when it comes to being the head honcho. So you've got to understand that the situation you're in is governed by a lot of factors. Some of them are skill, some of them are your abilities, some of them are luck. And you are bound to have your share of bad luck anywhere you go. Where are you going to get more leniency than at OU in the situation you're in terms of if you go into a bad spell and bad luck? While there have been people very outspoken with their criticisms, and of course there's always crazy fans who want to fire you for ever losing a ball game, he could write his own ticket here. And he is now, instead of doing that, he's going to a high-risk situation where the expectations will be equally as high as they are here.
No chance. They don't have fans that show up for games.
Well, no, but they still
don't have.
have.
There's probably not even a USC football podcast out there.
Oh, I
So-
would bet there are.
So
Their
when you look at
expectations
pictures,
will be as high. Their expectations will be as high. They just fired a guy. They have run through a lot of coaches. Their expectations will be high because it's Lincoln Riley.
it's Lincoln Riley.
And yet he won't have the equity, the brand equity that he's got here. He wouldn't have that anywhere. For all the reasons I said I'd help him pack if he's going to LSU, these equally apply to USC. But it just goes to show you how funny is it. Was it just some people decoding the messages that couldn't get the 3 capital letters in the right order and of the right lineup? But
Real quick, before we get too far, this is what time is it right now? 4 o'clock?
3:30.
3:30 Sunday. What we know so far from blue checkmark confirmed people on Twitter, took the USC job. Apparently, OU would not match the USC offer, which is also shocking, to be honest with you. And
Didn't tell the players. They had to find out on social media.
Yeah, exactly. Didn't own up to that first. Per Dvorak, Bob Stoops is an interim. Now that's probably just for bowl prep and practices that you get for all that extra stuff. But I just want to preface that before we got too deep into it.
So that's pretty interesting. So what was going to happen? There's so many angles to talk about. What the hell was going to happen if we had won last night? Was he going to? He would have tried to keep this secret through the entire week and prepared for the Big 12 title.
Yes, because
There was a
of
chance
signing
of
day.
a playoff too.
Yeah, it's because
And
of
there's a
signing
chance
day.
of a playoff.
Yes.
Yeah. So what happens if we beat OSU and then we beat OSU a second time and we're going to playoff? He's still taking the USC job,
And because then you're behind the signing day.
right?
And are you going to take it and coach us through the playoffs? How crazy would that be?
Well, that wouldn't happen.
No.
Joe C would say bye.
Goodbye.
Yeah.
You're done.
We don't have to worry about that because that's all speculation.
But it's all important to think about how this whole thing went down. And so that gets back to me thinking about
We're one or two plays away from that being a
real
real
thing, yeah.
possibility.
That proves that this distraction of LSU was even worse than we thought.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
he's actually taken the USC job.
And how long has this been going on? When was this decision made? USC fired their coach,
Well, people have said that
about 5 weeks into
for
the season?
several weeks now, Lincoln has been distant.
Which is crazy for him because he's already a secret
Yeah.
C moron.
Yeah.
Which I'll just note here
So he
because I
knew
can
he was
say it real
taking this
quickly.
job down the whole stretch of our season.
I think you're probably right. And here, I think it's even before that. But let me say before I forget, I wrote down in my notes, secrecy gone. I'm glad. Hopefully we'll get someone who is not a paranoid freak who thinks that if anyone sees the littlest thing as far as insight into what's going on in their program, you're going to lose the next game. Which also speaks to the fact that he might be a pussy. That he's afraid of anybody getting the edge on him, which we have seen time and again, people have gotten the edge on him. And he hasn't been able to work his way around it. Everything that we're mad about, everything that we get frustrated about, it's this guy who cannot see past his stubbornness and understand he needs to make new decisions when it comes to a defense that's figured him out or anything else along the road. And he's got a bullying mentality with the media. The media will probably be happy to see him gone.
As far as Oklahoma sports goes, this is by far that I can think of the biggest. I mean, Benedict Arnold
Stunner.
This is
like
Kevin Durant.
This
style.
is like 10 times worse than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
For OU football
for
in
OU
this
football.
state, Thunder being so new and even though it's professional, it's not the same thing.
No, it's not the same thing.
If he walked away, you do not walk
the
away
Thunder
from
were
this job.
on the way down.
If you get fired from this kind of job, that is different.
Yeah.
Dan Mullen getting fired from Florida is different. LSU firing their coach is different. You don't
no one's
just
ever left
walk
OU.
away
No one's
from
ever
those
left
schools.
OU like this. When Fairbanks left, he went to the NFL.
Yep.
No one's ever left
The
for another
only
job.
acceptable thing you can do as an OU coach. You leave the NFL, fine. That is technically the higher, bigger, best division in your profession.
So it does scare me.
Or you retire.
Or you
Right.
retire. It scares me that the state of our program is in a position that we can't compete as well. But I think it's more about Lincoln Riley. I think it's Lincoln Riley who made this decision. I think when he learned the news we were going to the SEC, I think that sent shockwaves into him. He probably wasn't involved in the decision at all. He probably felt betrayed by that, and he's probably scared to death because who's had his number? The SEC.
My only concern with that is, just to play devil's advocate, if he wasn't scared of that move and he wasn't afraid of that competition, but if he went in there and he spoke with Joe C and the other people at OU, and were not going to give him the concessions that he felt we as a program needed to succeed, that concerns me. If it's just
Maybe
Lincoln
so.
being a bitch, that's fine. We'll find a coach that can coach his football team. If the administration...
But maybe he's wrong about that. Maybe he's asking for the moon. I mean,
No, I disagree.
What are you asking for?
I don't know. These other teams have far superior in amount of support staff.
I agree, and we ran the number. We talked about the numbers
Coaches.
on this last pod.
I mean, they have former head coaches as
we
your
don't know-
analysts for game film.
Yeah,
all that's
usually it's
all that's
disgraced head
hypothetical.
coaches.
All that's hypothetical.
I don't
Yeah,
care.
that's
It's
true.
still a
They
head
are
coach.
disgraced.
It's not a
what
GA.
What do you think he's asking for?
But it's not a GA.
Is
We
he
have
asking
GAs.
for $2 million for a guy who's barely qualified, barely shown himself to be the type of defensive coordinator we think we need? What do you think he's asking for? Because he might
we
be asking
obviously
for
don't-
too much.
We don't know. Obviously, we don't know that. That's true. But I'm just saying, to play devil's advocate
Yeah.
to that, I hope that's not what it is.
I agree.
Because then we are screwed.
I tell you
agree.
right now, I have full faith in Joe
Joe
Castiglione.
I do too.
That guy has done nothing but win since he's been hired on in every sport.
Yep.
We've been to Final Fours. We've won softball national championships. We've won football national championships, football conference titles, gymnastics. He's done
the
everything
men's
he could possibly
basketball moves
do
have been great.
as an athletic director. So
Yeah.
I don't see any way that if Joe C thought Lincoln Riley was the guy that deserved to get all this extra stuff and
we need that
and
stuff.
didn't give it to him.
I
just
agree.
don't see it happening.
I agree.
I'll ride or die Joe C till I die.
So this completely destroys my theory, I think, unless a bluff got called, that this whole thing was just a negotiating tactic. But it might have been. It might have been a negotiating tactic. But I don't think so.
No,
My
I think
hypothesis is
Riley's
Lincoln Riley
bitch.
found out in the summer of 2021 that we're going to the SEC, and he decided he wanted no part of it. And he was looking for an exit. I think he spent a lot of this season and preseason looking for an exit.
I mean, this also shows that he's scared because there are the LSU jobs open, the Florida job is open. That's two top tier SEC jobs that are available. So if he was going to jump
And he could have had it.
and isn't scared of competition,
He could have
he
jumped
could have
at
taken
those.
one of those two jobs.
Both of those programs, I would say, are on stronger footing than USC in terms of a full scale program.
Yeah.
Now, if you're thinking I want the easy route to the playoff, that's a different thing.
That's USC. That's
and
what
I
he's
don't
done.
want a guy who wants the easy route
Yep.
to the playoffs.
I don't either.
want a guy who
Nope.
wants to do that.
I don't want somebody soft or scared.
He seemed soft and scared. He seemed really soft and scared. You've mentioned something. If you didn't say it in words, you said it, or directly, you said it. You alluded to it. Does this speak to character, or does it just speak to his fear of the SEC? I think it speaks to both.
Yep.
And I'm not saying like his duty to OU may not have been violated, but it sure doesn't seem right. Something doesn't seem square.
There's
about
plenty
the
of
whole
former
deal.
players that are already commenting saying that Kenny Stills said this shit ain't right. Aaron Colvin said this is ridiculous. How could he do that? Multiple former players are essentially calling Riley a pussy, which I'm all for. I hope every former player. I'd be happy if Baker Mayfield unfollowed Lincoln Riley.
Yep.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah,
You know what,
it would be
too?
really
It's-
interesting to see how that
it's,
will unfold with those guys.
It's going to be really interesting. It just pisses me off to not that he didn't earn it, but he hadn't earned it really at the time, to be handed the keys to this type of program in the position that it was
He
in.
cried when he was handed that too. He literally shed tears
In the press conference.
in the press
When
conference,
Bob
and I
Stoops
think they were genuine.
Turned it over.
Has he gotten so big in the last 5 years that he's gone from tears to I want to chart my own course? And is that appropriate? If he has,
Is Stoops pissed? Your
I
opinion?
think Stoops is extremely. I would imagine Stoops is pissed. I would imagine Stoops feels guilty, and I would imagine he feels embarrassed. I would guess those are his initial emotional reactions. I also wouldn't be surprised.
Not just business.
I would think there's some of that too, but I would think that I don't see how you can't feel like, wow,
We don't know
this
what USC
isn't where
offered.
I wanted this to be.
I mean, if they offered 12, 13 million and Joe C was simply like, we just can't do that, can you fault a guy for taking a 30% increase in pay?
You all of that can still be business, and
That
it's
30%
still
increase in California is a wash.
Equals. It's a
yeah.
wash.
Let's be honest. That's a
So the
great
state
point.
tax in California
That's
is
a
a killer
great
compared
point.
to Oklahoma.
Yeah, and it's across the
So
board.
that money is a
living
wash.
expenses, so it may be a wash, and even if it's not, you still can say, how many millions are enough, Lincoln? How rich do you have to be, or what do you think you deserve? Because I guarantee you, wherever he could get at USC, he could get there with us if he'd ever win a damn game outside of the Big 12. If he could get past that level, we would be able to achieve that too, and he definitely could do it in the SEC. I think Stoops is going to feel all of those emotions. Reportedly, Stoops is going to be the interim coach. One question I have is, how responsible does he feel, and would Stoops be willing and able to do it for the long term? I think he could. The man's like, what's he, 61 years old? He's not that old. He seems to be reinvigorated for sure with what we see on Fox.
Yeah.
I wonder if Joe C. didn't contact him 2 weeks ago and say, listen, this is where this is headed. We need to get a game plan together. He may have a staff ready to go, or at least partially. Things may fall into place really quickly for him. It is mind-boggling. It's frustrating. It's definitely a negative. It remarks negatively on OU.
I'm a recruiting nerd, and so from that aspect, this really pisses me off because talent-wise, we have been upgrading under Lincoln Riley, technically.
Oh yeah.
And
But we all agree.
the
The program
2022 class
took a tremendous step up when he got the offensive coordinator job.
Yes, the 2022 class was going to be top 5, top 10. We have the number 1 2023 class, which is early, but we already have several
Full of California kids.
already given the staying home question mark eyeballs. So, and the timing of it, that leaves we're not going to find. I don't think we're going to find or name a new head coach in the next 2 weeks. I suppose we would, but
Just for
how
recruiting?
quickly can they?
It's going to be Bob Stoops. I'm calling it.
But how quickly can they keep that class together?
I'm gonna
Can
say-
Bob Stoops keep that class?
I'm going to say Bob Stoops is the interim for the bowl game, and he's also named head coach because he can get on the recruiting trail tomorrow. He's going to tell Fox, "Sorry, see you later. I got to go fix this."
Well, you think about this. Joe C. has, what is Lincoln Riley's buyout?
And here's what's strange
Wait,
about
I
that.
ask a question. What is Lincoln Riley's buyout?
Like 18, 19 million.
So he's got $18 million to work with right now to help pay Stoops to tell Fox take a hike. Or
What you got, Lucas?
I got a tweet from Bruce Feldman. He says, "Things really escalated late last night and into this morning, I'm told. For Riley, it was the appeal of L.A., the local recruiting talent, and the opportunity of trying to rebuild a brand. That was all very enticing to him. Rebuild a brand.
is that what he wants to be, the rebuild guy? Or does he want to win championships? If so, again, I'll help you pack.
You're already at a top 3 school in the history of college
Yeah.
football."
If you want to be the rebuild guy, fine. But a rebuild guy does not get you and keep you in championship position. And that's what it appears he's going to be.
Wow.
That's what a
just
joke.
phenomenal.
What a joke.
It's an absolute joke. It speaks so much, I think, to what the guy actually is after and what he thinks his own limitations
I don't
are.
know how realistic this is, but you want to talk about a great story. Stoops comes back for 2 years with the idea that he is grooming the next guy, and that guy is Brent Venables.
I don't
You
think you have to
I
groom
don't
Brent
know.
Venables.
I don't
If
know.
he's the
I think
guy,
you have to groom people for head coaching jobs. I
no.
think.
I mean, he's been a defensive coordinator for 20 plus years. He's not going to be groomed. If
I
he's
don't
the,
know
guy,
if he's the guy,
he's hired.
I don't know if he's the guy. I've always had my
just a
doubts
story.
about Venables.
Just
It's
a fun story.
It's a fun story. I don't want to go too down the rabbit hole of who could be, but I don't know if he's head coaching material. I
hope Lincoln and Riley enjoys playing at the Coliseum with 20,000 fans.
Mm-hmm.
On their, I just saw a picture of what it looked like during the national anthem of their final game of the season yesterday, and what a joke! There's not 7,000 people in the stands.
which OU has never been in that.
Even
position.
at our worst,
Even at our worst,
even at our
in
worst,
much
you've still
worse
got
weather.
60,000 fans there.
Yep. So when you look at what he's done as a head coach, I have to say, how good of a head coach is he actually?
I was going to bring this up on the earlier pod, but we decided we were going to do a pod in a couple of weeks for the program,
Which is
in
all
the
going to be
future,
different.
right? We all know this, but I saw it in writing on Twitter somewhere. But so we go from Big 12 champion to losing in 2 overtimes to Georgia. Then we go to Big 12 champion to getting blown out mediumly by Alabama. Then we go to Big 12 champion getting completely blown out by LSU. Then we go to Big 12 champion, no bowl game, beat deflated.
No playoff.
No playoffs. Beat a deflated Florida team. To now year 5, not even playing our conference championship game.
So one thing that you brought up when we were off pod right before we got the bombshell news was a question you wanted us to address in the upcoming pod, which we still can wait for that, but this I think is very relevant. Players that have transferred and had successful seasons. We have had a number of players leave our program early and have great success in the NFL and transfer to other programs and have tremendous success. Immediately play, not just playing time, be stars. Buki's one of them. Rambo's one of them. Mordecai. Calcaterra.
And
you see all these guys leaving.
You got Trey Brown.
Trey Norwood. Motley.
Yep.
You've got TJ Pledger. You've got a number of players that have been at least solid contributors wherever they've landed. And it always struck me as weird that you're seeing these guys leave OU like this. You don't see the kind of people transferring out, especially starters, the way we've seen, and guys leaving early. All of that spoke to me as a concern. Listing other concerns I've had about Lincoln Riley, we talk about risk return, we talk about clock management. You've got the fact that he stubbornly refuses to not be the offensive coordinator, which we think disallows him from having the overall perspective you need as a head coach. We complain about every assistant that he's brought in, that they don't seem to be the guy we want in terms of being absolute top-notch in their field.
That's true. This does seem...
Everything's a mixed, at least an incomplete package so
I don't know what the
far.
right vernacular is for this at this moment. I don't want to call it sour
words.
grapes or whatever it is, but we were going to address, I specifically wanted to address coaching changes in the future and
Position
that's,
coaches.
Position
mainly.
coaches,
Yeah.
right. And that's what you're talking about. This is a big boy program. And looking back at it, I always want to give hope for a coach or hope for...
Benefit of the doubt.
Benefit of the doubt, right. But we bring in Grinch, who runs a gimmicky style. He definitely improved our defense. I don't think his defensive style or scheme can take you to the next level. It doesn't appear. Then there was some scuttle back and forth between if Lincoln let him bring his guy in or Lincoln brought his and so forth. Mm-hmm. So then we bring in a outside linebacker coach from Washington State to coach our secondary. Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe you can coach several positions and you can become great. I'm not sure about that. I know other coaches have done
You don't
things
usually
similar.
get your experiment, though, at a school like us.
Brian Odom, his brother is a very good coach, but he was a strength coach just not several years ago, so he didn't have a lot of on-the-field coaching experience. He's our linebacker coach. Grinch himself, personally, is a safeties coach, and that might be the weakest talent-wise on the team. He can't recruit anyone in that position. And
he can't staff it. He has his decision making on who's playing has been just
right.
completely questionable at best.
Right, and then you've got whether Kale wanted to do it or not. You move Kale from running backs coach, which he was great at, to
That
inside
was
receiver
always
coach.
confusing to me.
Dennis
He'll probably be our offensive coordinator, I would imagine.
Dennis Simmons is 100% going with Lincoln Riley. There's no question.
Yep.
I bet Jamar Kane, unfortunately, probably the best coach we have on our staff from recruiting and development wise, the defensive ends. He's an Arizona, California guy.
Yeah.
I bet he goes to USC too.
Yeah.
I don't know. We got a lot of positions to fill, but you're right. I don't know. I don't know what we've lost. I can't tell what we've lost. Recruiting wise, it's a hit.
Oh, for sure, it's a hit.
On the field,
Everything's
performance
a hit.
wise,
Immediately, it's a hit.
I don't know.
But in the long-term scheme of things, we may be better off with who we can land with next.
Yeah.
Because I'll come back to this just as a truism. You want the guy that wants to be there. You don't want the guy who's taking it out of obligation or out of the fact that you just pay him enough money or some other. You want the guy whose
maybe
heart
he
and
took the
passion
job.
is in it.
Maybe he took the job when Stoops came to him out of, well, I can't turn this down.
Right. How could you?
I mean, it's impossible.
Right.
I don't really want this job, but I can't turn this down.
Well, he may just have a different framework about what he thinks it takes to win and what way he wants to get there. But when you look at the staffs that Stoops put together in his early years, and when you look at the staffs that Barry Switzer had, we always had top-notch staffs. We had coaches, assistant coaches that were tremendous in their area.
And when
their field.
Stoops went and made some bad hires and some friend hires and stuff, we took a hit.
Yeah, we did take a hit. And he may have learned his lesson out of that, and he'd have a different clean slate to work with. So I think back to other decisions as a head coach that Lincoln Riley made, and I don't know if there's any decision, and we don't know everything that went into it, but I don't know if there's any decision that's got more of a mar on his record than the fact that Mike Stoops kept his job as long as he did, or that the defense didn't get corrected. And so whatever it was, we suffered tremendously by having Mike Stoops remain on the staff and, well, by having a bad defense, for whatever reason it was. It may not have been Mike Stoops, right? It may have been other factors that were involved, because although the defense is better than it was under Mike Stoops, it's not top-notch. It's not where we want it to be or where we think it could be. So we're stretching. I'm an optimist and a homer when I say it could be top 20 if this, and that fell into place for us. And my optimism going into the season, expecting it would be that good. It's not been that good. So all of that speaks to decision-making as a head coach, because you don't just get to head coach during the game. You have to head coach 24/7, 365. You're always making head coaching decisions. It's just interesting. It brings into sharp relief so many things that we sort of turn a blind eye to and tend to gloss over as fans when things are going okay and when he's your coach. It does allow you to see more critically into some aspects. And I know we're going to be pretty harsh on it right now because we're the jilted one. We just got turned down. But I really look at it as a situation where if you get left at the altar, there's probably a reason you don't want to be with that person, even though you think you want to be with that person, because you don't want to force them to stay. And they may be making a decision because they just want other things in life, or they may be making a decision when it's a business-type relationship that's a bad decision. And I think this is a bad decision. I think it's, on paper, as I would define what I think the guy's goals are, I think this is a bad decision. I don't wish ill, but I wish he gets as good a fortune and no better than he would have gotten at OU, which may mean a very tough and rocky road at USC. He's had a rocky road here, as you list the losses and the shortcomings.
What direction, not necessarily a specific name, what type of coach do you prefer, each of you, to be brought in?
I would like somebody that is a no-nonsense, smash-mouth football kind of guy. I don't know who that is yet. Chris Kleiman, I like. It seems like Kansas State's kids play hard for him. He was great at, North Dakota State before.
Several national titles.
Several national titles there. I'm fine going back to running the ball and throwing when you need to. I don't want to be soft. It seems like, and I'm not, I mean, I've said this when times were good. Lincoln Riley was soft. I want to see somebody that will come out there and hit them on defense and blow them off the ball on offense. Going to the SEC, that's the style that they used to play. They've trended more the last 3 or 4 years of going spread offenses and throwing it all around. I'd love to go back to just
Bama's kind of the
mowing people down.
Bama's kind of the combination of both. They moved to a spread offense, but they will still maul you on the offensive line.
Absolutely.
And they are bringing grown-ass men running backs.
That's when we had our most
down.
success under Lincoln was an aggressive, physical offensive line. Interestingly, we've moved away from that in the years
Since Bob left.
Since Bob left.
Yep.
And since Bob's recruits are now gone. I want to win, and I'm good with winning anyway. And there's lots of formula to win. Lincoln, I thought had glimpses of what I thought was great innovation in football, but a lot of guys have, and not in any way to suggest they want this person as my coach because of the character issues. But Art Briles was an amazing innovator. I loved the innovations they had, and they were hard-nosed football guys.
Yep.
They're still punks from that era.
Right.
I want people that are tough. I want hard-nosed football, and I think it's what it takes to win in a tough league like the SEC. I think a league like the Pac-12 is just a soft league of people that don't really care. You talk about irrelevancy, it's the midnight league.
I mean, outside of the Pete Carroll USC days, Oregon's had a flash in the pan a couple years here and there. But other than that, that league has been trash for 20 years, almost 20 years, or at least 15 years now.
I mean, they're
since
looking
Carroll
at
left.
how are they going to expand? Are they going to add teams? They're going to try to do this. And they're trying to keep eyeballs on TV sets.
Yeah.
And they're having weird start times and kick time. I mean,
They were worried about losing Arizona and Arizona State to the Big 12 at one point, and now he's going to go to that conference, and I mean he'll probably dominate because the league's just not any good.
So here's an interesting wrinkle. Go ahead.
I've seen multiple reports now that since we've been talking that Lincoln Riley was not a fan of the administration going to the SEC, and so that proves our point that
Yeah.
it just seems like he was scared and just too soft to want to go compete in a better league than the one he's in.
It seems very clear that that's the case. And what's amazing to me is he's not seeing the bigger picture of it and how much does he not think that we're one of the top programs in that league? Does he not understand where we stack against the rest of those guys? Mississippi State is not a big program compared to us.
so here's a Caleb Williams tweet. I appreciate all the concerns about the situation, but I am also happy for Coach Riley, Mama Riley, Sloan, and Stella for that huge opportunity ahead. That's all I plan to say right now.
That's cryptic.
That's cryptic.
That could be I'm staying to see this thing out, or I'm following him to USC. Who
It
knows?
could be I'm keeping my options alive because I want to see the next move.
Yeah.
I want to see the Nick's head coach is and all of that. And he's already settled in here, and that's a big change to go to USC.
Oh my gosh. Okay, guys. Okay. Adam Schefter. Oklahoma has targeted Cardinals head coach
Cliff
Cliff
Kingsbury.
Kingsbury.
I saw that.
Kingsbury.
I was about to say that.
as the potential replacement for Lincoln Riley.
I don't like that move.
I don't like the move
He couldn't.
either.
He didn't win at Tech. He got fired from Tech and somehow managed to.
Now,
Did he get the? He got the USC offensive coordinator job, right?
no, he was head coach.
No, didn't he? Took
No, he was head coach.
it was head coach of USC,
I think so, and he never
For like a month?
a month.
Yeah.
and then
he went to Arizona.
I don't know. I
I don't like that.
I like Joe C.
That's not a smash mouth guy.
If Joe C knows something, Joe C knows something. But it does. I agree on paper.
Yeah.
First impression.
Unless
is
he's
negative.
bringing Kyler Murray back with him somehow and skirting some NCAA rules, I don't like that call.
This has agent
this
written all
is
over it. 'cause
Myler
I think-
Curry.
I think he's up for a contract
Yeah.
extension.
What about? I mean, he's in the same category with me almost as Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin has proven to be a great coordinator, and he's done really well at Mississippi this year. What are their record? Are they 10-2? I mean, they're looking. But personality-wise, I wouldn't want Lane
He doesn't
Kiffin.
seem like a proven winner.
I don't
either.
want Lane Kiffin at OU.
Brandon Walker from Barstool. He's like, what the hell is going on out here? Looking at the Kingsbury news.
Wow.
So-
How about Lane Kiffin? Can
No.
the Kiff train come to
No.
I just said that.
Absolutely
Personality-wise,
no.
I don't see that as
No.
a fit.
Not just personality-wise. You talk about an unproven quantity. He's
I mean,
almost
he
a
failed at
proven
USC.
fail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you failed at USC, I don't see it happening.
And he
But
failed at Tennessee, and he failed at he's failed at quite a where was he? South
He's on the
Florida.
uptick at Mississippi, but we all know that they pay their players.
Well,
we mentioned-
not just
okay.
that. He's the uptick. They're 10-2, and they've not beaten anybody. A&M's their biggest game.
I mean, there's going to be years that we're happy with 10-2 in the SEC, and I said this going into the news of the SEC that we would be probably the third or fourth best team in the SEC on a regular basis until Saban retires. I would take Bama and Georgia. Well, Bama every year above us. Georgia is probably fairly equal to us. Maybe obviously this year they're way better, but most years I would say OU and Georgia are congruent with each other. After that, we're a better program than Florida. We're better than A&M. We're better than Auburn. So us going to the SEC before this news today, I would have assumed, depending on how they did the pods or the conferences or the divisions, whichever way they did it, that we would be second, third, fourth at worst in the SEC. Does that still stand true? Depends on who we hire.
So, columnist for the Fort Worth Telegram said to keep a close eye on Sonny Dykes. He was about to be named the head coach at TCU.
Right.
That's not Smash Mouth football
He was
either.
going to be introduced Tuesday.
I don't like that
I'm not
necessarily
kidding.
either.
I honestly think Bob Stoops comes back. I think he's the interim coach for the bowl game. He goes on the recruiting trail this week, tries to convince whoever he can to stay. He's got to have an offensive coordinator in mind. I think Cale Gundy is the obvious choice. That guy has deserved a chance at offensive coordinator. I thought he should have got the job before Heupel got the job, whatever year time frame that was, because he knows offense. He's a great recruiter. He's brought the best recruits that OU's had in the last 20 years to Norman. So I would be totally fine if Bob Stoops signed on the dotted line, maybe a 2-year contract with OU, and promoted Cale Gundy to offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty awesome. I like the storyline on it. I think that's definitely a possibility and realistic to win. When you were talking about where we stack up in the SEC, I look at it more of a slightly long-term view in terms of program, and we are blue blood. We are at par with or ahead of all of the programs in the SEC.
Yep.
We are equal to Alabama, and we are, I think, ahead of Georgia.
Yes.
And no other program.
As a historical program,
Really?
I agree. I was thinking
I
current
know
situation,
you mean.
us
Bring it
going
right in.
to the
Right
SEC.
in. No, I totally agree with
Right.
that too. So I'm just saying where we can get anybody that wants to compete and play to win. You've got as good a shot at Oklahoma, and you've got as good a shot at Texas as you do at any of these other places. If Texas can get their shit together,
What about
because
Joe
Texas
Brady?
is a bigger job than Florida.
Joe Brady be a great recruiter, probably.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
he's
is that a
he's an
better
offensive-
job than
he's an
offensive coordinator
mind.
in the NFL?
Yeah.
Yeah, better than the
Yeah.
offensive coordinator of the Panthers. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just not too interested in the speculation because who knows? I don't want to close the door mentally on somebody that ends up being our coach, and I also
Well,
don't.
I'll close the
wanna-
door on Cliff Kingsbury. I do not want that to
I
be our
agree.
coach.
No Cliff Kingsbury, no Josh Heupel, no Mark Stoops. We're not bringing in baby brother.
You hear that a lot from people. Now that is worrisome.
I wouldn't
if you
hate
get
Mark
Stoops
Stoops.
back, and I'm not sure about Mark Stoops.
He's
Mark
won
Stoops might
as
be okay.
best
He's
he can
won.
at Kentucky.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's got uphill battle and
They're
outdone
tough.
really
Outside
well.
of Hal
And
Mundy,
they're
they
tough.
haven't
They're
done
Smash Mouth tough team. I'll
Yeah.
tell you
yeah,
that.
yeah. As long as he doesn't bring
Yeah.
Mike in as defensive coordinator, I'm fine with Mark.
Oh my
as the head
God!
coach.
There's no way Mike Stoops
No.
walks back onto this football field.
No,
No.
that's your storyline.
That's
he
the way-
comes back.
There's
and,
0%.
No.
And it's
That's
it
the way I
is
feel
the
about
most
Heupel. I don't see
amazing story
I don't
ever.
see outside of the
Heupel's the
30th anniversary
OC.
of the OU national championship team that Heupel ever steps foot back. on
Heupel's
the
OC.
field. Nope.
Mike Stoops is DC.
No chance.
Bob is head coach.
Nope.
3 national titles in a row, starting
Yeah,
next
none of
year.
those things are happening.
You know Joe C's going to be,
Who's this Jeff
especially.
Lebby? I hear Jeff Lebby all the time. Who is he?
He was part of the Bryles crew, I think.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
bring him in just on
His
that.
name
I
gets
don't-
brought up all the time. But
I
where's he?
think
Where's
it's
he
rat
OC right
poison
now?
to touch anybody that's ever been associated with Baylor.
Where's he the OC
in
right
that
now?
era?
In that era.
I would take Aranda,
Yeah, take a Randa.
but he's not involved in that era.
Yeah, I just think that Joe C's going to make a good decision, and I think Joe C has probably had ample lead time. I'm sure when he broke the news to Lincoln Riley that we're going to the SEC, which Joe C's smart enough and man enough and good character and judgment and everything to do it to his face before the news was public,
Yeah.
unlike this situation with how everyone's finding out about this job. He probably saw it in Lincoln's eyes right away.
Dan
His
Orlovsky.
concern probably got elevated at that point, and he's probably been sharpening his short list this entire time. And definitely in the last few weeks, as whatever's been going on, he's been a part of it because that's an actual negotiation. There's an actual buyout and he has connections. He's going to know about something that's afoot.
I think it's wild that we probably had our best Twitter interaction this week when I tweeted about
Bob Stoops.
Bob Stoops. It looks like he's enjoying his best life on the Fox Big Noon Sunday coverage. He looks like he's having fun. He looks stress-free.
He could be reinvigorated.
He could be invigorated to come back, and I don't think he feels any guilt like Steve alluded to earlier, but if he did, he could feel like, I'm going to come back and coach and get this
And
thing
set it right.
and set this thing right and bring the next guy in, and that guy is going to know that
I
this is a
guarantee
top tier
he feels
job.
embarrassed. I guarantee you he feels guilty. He gave that guy the job. He handed it off to him in a time of, you read his book, incredible stress and difficult decision making. He did not go into that decision lightly about retiring,
Yeah.
and he looked for his best chance to set OU right, and he
I-
found a great
yeah.
choice,
I
and he
definitely-
did it.
I definitely think that he did everything in his power to leave,
And I
leave
think
us in good hands,
And
and
I
he
think
did.
now, he did.
He did.
And I think now he probably looks at it as it's tainted and spoiled. And then he's also embarrassed to think he thinks of Oklahoma. You read his book again or listen to anything he said. He's always said how we're the juggernaut and a giant, and how disappointed he was in the '90s to see us floundering the way we did. He expects and wants us to be greatness, and I don't think he has any affection for USC, based on, if nothing else, the competition between the two of us, getting his butt kicked in the Orange Bowl by them, when there was accusations of potential play stealing, and then at the same time to have your players competing for the Heisman and getting beaten out by their
Yeah.
players. So
and having Heisman taken away because
That's-
Reggie Bush's
What about Leach?
family was paid. Nope, not Smash Mouth.
I don't think
I'm out.
so. Are you saying it from want or likelihood?
Want for sure. Likelihood, I think.
I
Is
mean, I think they're
very
a
low
tough
possibility.
I mean, they're a tough team right now.
I
And
would say
Mississippi
that
State.
what's problematic about that is he's pretty old, and so he's on the back half of a career for sure, if not farther.
He's younger than Bob.
And yeah, but not by much. And I don't think you're looking at Bob for the next 20 years. So that'd be the same problem with
Right.
bringing Bob in. So I think that the one problem with Leach might be that he's a wild card, and the guy might say something that gets you in some hot water.
Yeah.
And he also hasn't proven that he can win at an elite level, and he's had a lot of quasi opportunities for it.
This
It's
guy,
tough.
Super K on the Football Brainiacs, is always putting up a bunch of information on their website. He says Lincoln Riley met with the players, ... started crying, said he was leaving, ... and he walked out. I don't know if the ... dots mean that he went to each player for 30 seconds and said something, or if he just said, "I'm out of
See
here,
you,
guys."
boys.
One of our listeners texted and said that looks like Lincoln Riley was a Trojan horse.
It's pretty good.
I mean, he's coming here, he's coach, and now he's stealing all our recruits.
Definitely wasn't a Magnum.
Well, let's make some off-the-cuff predictions. Will Lincoln Riley win a national championship?
I'm going to say no.
I'll say no as well.
Man, that's
And
tough.
I hope he doesn't.
That's tough.
I hope he doesn't.
The reason that I feel it's tough, there is a lot of California talent, and he's going to get it all.
Yeah.
And he is not going to have a hard path.
No.
And I don't know. I don't think he's a Pete Carroll level coach per se,
No, I think Lincoln Riley will be his own worst enemy.
but Pete Carroll only won. Did he win 2 or 1?
Well, he won 1 plus a fake one.
Yeah.
They
He won 2.
had the AP win in 03,
Okay.
and then they actually
So
won
even
one
as
in
good as he
04.
did, in a time where you didn't have to run through the playoffs,
Yeah.
how he had that rolling, he had one and lost one.
He had several Heisman candidates and Heismans.
Yep.
No, there's
I'll
a
go
lot of
with
talent
no.
out there, but in a playoff
He's gonna
world,
be there.
He's got to. Here's the deal. He can't just
He's
get
going to be
to-
there. He's going to get there.
Yeah, but he's not going to get to the championship game.
No, but he's
So
going to get
put
the
somebody in a
playoffs.
championship game, and that's a 50-50 proposition.
I didn't
Put
even,
somebody in the playoff, especially a 12-team playoff. He's got to play his way to the championship game, and he's not going to be playing Oregon and UCLA to get there.
Right. We've got some more tweets from players coming in. Jeremiah Cradell says, sick to my stomach. Justin Broyles still got a game that needs to be won. Braden Willis, well, damn.
They
And
have to be just
along with
devastated.
former players being
They've
pretty-
got to feel
they're
jilted,
pretty
too.
pissed. Kenny Stills seemed pissed. Aaron Colvin seems pretty pissed, especially at the way it was all handled.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is kind of reminiscent of Les Miles leaving OSU at the Alamo Bowl to go to LSU. That's the opposite of being scared. He actually left the Big 12
For a bigger job
for
in
a bigger, better job
in a tougher league.
in a tougher league, where Lincoln Riley is really doing the opposite. He's taken a job in the top.
It's a step down.
In the top 10 jobs of all time. USC's probably in the top 10.
Yeah.
But they're not a top
Not now.
3 job of all time, and they're currently nowhere near where they should be. And you're definitely running away from competition.
Yeah.
So I wish Lincoln Riley well. I hope he never wins a game.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm totally the same. And it's easier for me to say that because he's at USC, a team that I've got a lot of bitterness for, just as a fan. I don't have that same bitterness for UCLA, for instance. And if he were to go to UCLA, I'd look at it even differently. I find it. I keep coming back to the fact that you would make this move. Just says a lot about where you think things are headed, and I hope he's wrong. I hope he's wrong about OU's ability to compete and win championships. And if it is true that he just wants to be part of a rebuilding effort, then he definitely wasn't the right man for this job.
Yeah.
He didn't take a rebuilding job.
That seems like a weird thing to want to do to me.
It totally is a weird
if-
thing to
if
want to
you
do.
had
That's what
won-
you want to do when you're at the end of your career
Yeah.
as your swan song at 65 years old.
If you'd won 2 national championships at OU and then decided you wanted a quote-unquote challenge,
Yes.
then maybe take the job to go rebuild somewhere. But
Yes.
there's so much unfinished business
So
at this
much
place
unfinished business.
that you just look even more scared and soft than we're even saying.
Chicken shit.
Yep, chicken shit.
It is. That's very true. It doesn't make sense. You talk about the unfinished business. You haven't even won a playoff game.
Yeah.
You've barely been competitive in any.
Yep,
And the reason you didn't win one of them was your stupid decision making in them.
yep.
From the squib kick to other just tactical decisions in how to play that game against Georgia.
In the short term, for next season's rough.
Yep.
There's no way around it. We already didn't have any running backs. Our running back recruits, one is from California, the other one's from Colorado.
There's other recruits.
I know, but these are 5-star kids.
Yeah.
And we need replacements quickly.
We've won national
If-
championships without 5-star
If
kids.
Caleb Williams does leave, we literally don't have a scholarship quarterback on campus.
If Rattler leaves.
If Rattler leaves, too.
He's gone. He's not. I don't think a new coach would keep him to stay here. I don't know. Maybe he would.
You don't know.
That would be a huge story for Rattler. Caleb Williams follows Lincoln Riley. New coach comes in. Rattler lights it up next season.
That would be amazing.
Storybook.
Lots of storybook potentials here. Definitely some
But
tragic
staff wise,
bad
right?
seasons,
Even
too.
whoever someone brings in, I mean, you're almost looking at cleaning house, really. I mean, what does this do for Gundy? Right? Does he stick it out with another unknown staff member just because he's been here for 20
I hope
years?
he's the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, he might be the
Bob
offensive
Stoops.
under Bob Stoops. He may be the offensive coordinator. Maybe,
Even if we have a
maybe
gap
the entire
year.
season. Maybe a gap year of Stoops.
Yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to be a gap year or 2 with Stoops, and then
You can't have your first year coach heading into the SEC. So if it's Stoops,
Yeah,
You
you
can.
can.
Nice.
Yeah, you can.
you can't expect to win a national championship that way, but you can do it.
Take jobs in the USC.
Yeah.
They absolutely can do it.
I'm trying to make it as beneficial to us as possible.
Well, that may or may not be the case.
If
but
you're
here's the
not
deal.
going to have
You've got
Stoops
a
for 2
total pass.
years, you find somebody now.
I don't. Yes or no? I don't know if that's true at all because next year no one's going to hold Stoops accountable for anything.
Yeah.
They don't care. As long as you come out and and I'm saying wins and losses.
If
know,
we go
but-
9-3 next season,
Very forgiving.
you can't be pissed.
I know,
Very
but
forgiving.
here's-
And that'd be the same thing for the new coach coming into the SEC. They understand the situation.
Listen, I know we are indifferent on the recruits and the rankings and how much it matters. An interim Bob Stoops for an entire season does nothing for the next recruiting class. We're already going to lose what we have of the 22. We'll replace it with some players that are okay players. But the 23 class with an interim coach for a whole year and you not knowing who the next coach is going to be, etc., it's just not sustainable.
Bob Stoops won a national championship with John Blake's 3 stars. I'm totally fine if that happens. If you give Stoops a chance again, maybe we'll get some kids that are hungrier in here. I mean, Tanner Mordecai left. He was highly recruited. Went to SMU, lit it up this season. He can still be here.
Lots of things can happen in terms of putting you in a position to win, and it starts at the top. And you've got a proven winner in Bob Stoops.
I'm just mean having someone that the kids know isn't a long-term thing is difficult in how recruiting is now.
Oh, that's true. No, that's
Yeah.
always true. That's not just how it is now. That's
Yeah.
always been the case. Absolutely.
As long as Joe Castiglione does not retire in the next
2 years.
year or two,
Yeah,
bring it on. I'm on his side.
I'm on his side too.
He's going to make the best decision for this university. Always has.
And he's going to have plenty of opportunity to do it. This may be, not to put a silver lining great spin on the thing, but this may be the thing that Joe C needed. Because we talked about this the other day. I think we talked about it last night. If I were a donor, I would, and I had millions and millions, I've been given millions and millions, and Joe C comes to me and says, I need millions and millions more. If it's for Riley or his staff or for that stadium or whatever, I'm going to at some point demand some results before I pay more. But if I can be part of a rebuilding effort, and especially if you channel my bitterness about this situation and what just happened, I'm going to come to the table. I'm going to say, hell yeah, rally the troops. Let's go. Let's go get this done.
Let's get the band back together.
We're getting the band back
Now,
together.
if Joe C retires, everything I just said, I won't be screwed.
You know who was just in town last week? Big Boy,
I don't.
offensive coordinator. Used to be head coach at
Mangino.
Kansas.
Mangino, that's
Bring
right.
him back.
That's not
Bringing the
bad.
band back together. Who knows? He may have been studying football and be ready to go on that. Oh, it's troubling. It's concerning. It's a shot in the gut. It is a slap in the face. But we can move on. And this program is bigger than any player. It's bigger than any fan. It's bigger than any donor. It's damn sure bigger than any coach. So I think that we can still be the same program that we are, and it may be our opportunity to take the next step. That it may be a step Lincoln Riley couldn't even take. Mixed blessings. It's tough to lose a coach. It's tough to pick up the pieces, but there are other coaches and there are other people that are winning, and we'll just have to see where it goes from here. It'll be interesting to see. Statistically speaking, it's almost certain that his winning percentage will be significantly lower at USC than it is at OU, just because it's been as high as it's been at OU.
Yeah.
He hasn't had that season that almost every coach has. So, at least in the naive history of it, or for the naive onlooker, they'll say, wow, he sure did take a hit when he left OU, and especially if he doesn't win a national title, when they look at what his record does. Again, I don't wish him ill, I just never want him to win a football game again. Anything else to add?
Nope. I'm sure we'll have another pod in the next week or so. I would think, just to
Yeah.
kind of tie up some loose ends on
And see where we stand.
see where we stand coaching wise. See what actually the deal is that Lincoln Riley's signing. And
We'll do the difference on the taxes, and we'll see how much that idiot is actually
Yep.
making.
Sounds good.
All right. Boomer Sooner.
Boomer Sooner.
Sooner.